I hate England, so I'm going to destroy the world economy. The hum of the server rack was the only company I kept. It was a lullaby, a constant drone that drowned out the sirens and shouting of the city outside. Good riddance, I thought, letting the sound wash over me. Let them scream, let them panic. They deserved it. I hated England. I hated the gray skies, the lukewarm beer, the pinched faces of the commuters crammed onto the tube. More than that, I hated the hypocrisy, the rot that festered beneath the veneer of politeness and tradition. My hatred wasn't sudden, it was a slow burn, stoked by years of feeling like an outsider, a square peg in a round hole, culminating in the absolute catastrophe that was my adolescence. My name is Arthur Finch, and I was about to destroy the world economy. It wasn't a snap decision hatched in some fit of pique. This had been years in the making, a carefully constructed algorithm designed to exploit the fault lines in the global financial system. I'd started small, tinkering with code, learning how to subtly influence market trends. Then it became an obsession, a relentless pursuit of the perfect formula to bring the whole house of cards tumbling down. I'd found it. A series of cascading triggers, barely perceptible at first, designed to amplify until the entire system was choking. My flat was a mess, the detritus of a life dedicated to numbers and code. Empty pizza boxes stacked precariously, energy drink cans scattered across the floor. My parents would have been horrified. They always prized order, respectability, the things I'd come to despise. They never understood. Mr. and Mrs. Finch were products of their time. Get a good job, Arthur, they'd preach. Settle down, buy a house. Live the life they envisioned. They couldn't grasp that the system they so blindly trusted was rigged. That some people would be forever stuck at the bottom, no matter how hard they worked. The memory of that humiliation in school, the snide remarks about my clothes, the way the teachers seemed to look right through me as if I were invisible, always fueled my hate. It was a private school, one I'd only been able to attend on a scholarship. I was the charity case, the outsider, never good enough for the old boys club. My parents thought it would give me a leg up. Instead, it was just a constant reminder that I didn't belong. Dr. Humphrey. My therapist back then called it social maladjustment. I called it seeing the world for what it was. A brutal, unforgiving place where the rich got richer and the rest were left to scramble for scraps. He tried to get me to channel my feelings into something productive. He'd said I was brilliant, that I had a unique gift. I had tried to explain to him the unfairness of life, but he didn't understand. I chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Productive, as if becoming another cog in the machine was some noble goal. I glanced at the monitor displaying the live market data. The first ripples were beginning. A slight dip in the FTSE, a tremor in the Dow, nothing alarming yet. But soon I'd given myself an alias on a dark web forum and recruited a handful of collaborators. I needed extra processing power, expertise in areas where I was weak. I never met them in person, communicating only through encrypted channels. They were drawn to the project by different motivations, ideological zeal, a lust for chaos, or simply the promise of a payday. I didn't care. They were tools. One of those tools, Charlie Higgins, used to work with me at some crummy tech firm. Charlie was okay as far as corporate drones went. He was sharp, knew his way around a database. I approached him first because I needed access to some proprietary trading software. He was initially on board, drawn in by the challenge. Then he got cold feet, started asking too many questions. Arthur, what are you really planning to do with this? He'd asked, his voice laced with suspicion. Just trying to make a few quid, Charlie, I'd lied, trying to sound nonchalant. He didn't buy it. This is way beyond a few quid, Arthur. This feels dangerous. He pulled out. Smart move, Charlie. Should have known I wouldn't involve him anyway. The tremors were growing. The news channels were starting to pick up on the anomalies, analysts scrambling to explain the fluctuations. They blamed market uncertainty, geopolitical tensions. They had no idea. Then Alina Davies showed up, a journalist sniffing around like a bloodhound. She'd been digging into those initial financial irregularities, the ones I'd carefully seeded to mask my larger plan. She was sharp, persistent, the kind of reporter who wouldn't let go of a story. I first saw her on a business channel, quoting one of my comments from the dark web forum that I hadn't deleted. She looked serious. I'd underestimated her. She tracked me down, of course. Found my address, showed up at my door. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity, that familiar itch, got the better of me. Mr. Finch, she'd said, holding out a press badge. Alina Davies from the Chronicle, I'm investigating some unusual activity in the financial markets, and your name keeps coming up. I played dumb, feigned ignorance. I'm just a programmer, I said. I don't know anything about the markets. She didn't believe me, I could see it in her eyes. She'd rattled off some technical jargon, mentioned the trading software, the encrypted forum. She knew more than she should. Someone is intentionally destabilizing the market, she said, her voice low. And I think you know who it is. I closed the door in her face. She started publishing articles, laying out her theory, piecing together the puzzle. She named names, exposed connections. The authorities, initially dismissive, started to take notice. Detective Inspector Baker was assigned to the case. A grizzled, world-weary cop who'd seen it all. He visited me too, asked the same questions as Ellie. I gave him the same answers. "We know you're involved, Finch," he said, his voice flat. "Just tell us what you know and maybe we can help you. Help me." They were the enemy, the enforcers of the system I was trying to destroy. I just smirked. Baker brought in Dr. Humphrey. The man looked older, his face etched with worry. He sat across from me in the interrogation room, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and disappointment. "Arthur," he said softly, "what are you doing? This isn't you." "You don't know me, doctor," I replied. "You never did." He tried to reason with me, to appeal to some sense of morality. He talked about the consequences, the suffering I would cause. He asked me to consider the innocent people who would be hurt. I didn't care. Collateral damage, necessary sacrifices for the greater good. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who'd tried to help me fit into society was now pleading with me to stop tearing it apart. The markets were in freefall. Panic gripped the financial centers. Fortunes were being wiped out, companies collapsing. The news channels were in a frenzy, broadcasting images of screaming traders, closed banks, and empty shelves. I watched it all unfold, a sense of cold satisfaction washing over me. It was working. My creation was unleashed, wreaking havoc on a system that deserved to be brought to its knees. Ellie was relentless. She published my alias, revealed my background, exposed my motives. She painted me as a madman, a vengeful sociopath. Maybe she was right, but the world needed to burn. She and Baker finally cornered me. They found my flat, the servers humming, the screens displaying the chaos I'd unleashed. The place was more of a mess than before. "It's over, Finch," Baker said, his gun drawn. I just laughed. It's just beginning. I hit the kill switch, severing the connection to the external servers. The algorithm would still run. The damage was already done. But they couldn't track it back to me, not directly. They arrested me, dragged me out of my flat as the sirens wailed. The last thing I saw was Ellie's face, a mixture of triumph and horror. In the interrogation room, Baker slammed a file down on the table. "We know you had help, Finch. Who were they?" I stayed silent. I wasn't going to betray my collaborators, the anonymous soldiers in my digital army. Days turned into weeks. I was interrogated, analyzed, dissected. The authorities were desperate to understand what I had done, to try and contain the damage. The global economy teetered on the brink, and they needed answers. They traced some of my online activity, found the encrypted forums, identified a few of my collaborators. But they were just small players, pawns in my game. The core of the algorithm, the key to its destructive power, remained a mystery. Ellie visited me. She sat across from me, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of anger and pity. "Why, Arthur?" she asked. "Why did you do this?" "Because I hate England," I said, the words laced with venom. "Because I wanted to watch it burn." She shook her head. "You destroyed more than just England, Arthur. You hurt a lot of innocent people. They were casualties of war," I said, my voice cold. "Necessary sacrifices." She looked at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she stood up and walked away. The world changed. Economies crashed, governments fell. The old order was crumbling. I watched it all from my cell, a sense of detached satisfaction washing over me. I didn't win, but I didn't lose either. I'd exposed the fragility of the system, revealed the cracks in the foundation. I'd shown them that even one person, armed with the right knowledge and the right motivation, could bring the whole thing crashing down, even locked away. I knew my work wasn't done. The seeds of chaos had been sown, and someone somewhere would eventually water them. Maybe I failed to destroy England, but the world economy might still collapse due to my efforts. Maybe in that sense I'd won. The hum of the server rack was gone, replaced by the sterile silence of my cell. But in my mind I could still hear it. The lullaby of destruction, the music of chaos, and it was beautiful.